What's going on, guys? Jay the Black here. Shout out to everyone that's tuning in. I want to talk about the breaking news of a TV legend, Jerry Springer, passing away at 79. You know, the 90s were a crazy time, right? It was a switch over from the 80s, and there was just a lot of cool shit going on in the 90s, and Jerry Springer was that. He was a cultural phenomenon, right? You know, and whether you like what he did, whether you agree with it, you think he made people look bad, his show was entertaining, and it was a show that was on the air for a very long time. There was a time I thought that the Jerry Springer show would never end, but it did, and he's passed away. You know, his show, I think, influenced a lot of what we saw on television. As far as we saw shows that tried to mirror this, imitate what Jerry Springer was doing, but he was always one of a kind. You know, his quips, his snarky comments to people, I think, was sort of like the highlight. You know, the security pulling apart the couples fighting, and then the audience questions afterward. The way the show was structured, it was just pure entertainment, right? Now, there were people that said that Jerry Springer's show was fake. I don't know. He says that most of the show was real. But I think peak Jerry Springer was back in the late 90s when they did the Jerry Springer movie. I think that was peak Jerry Springer, right? That was like when the popularity was just out there, right? And that was like in the late 90s. That just shows you again how he was symbolic of the 90s. Others as well, but Jerry Springer is one of the most synonymous people with the 1990s. All right. So let's get into this article from TMZ. Jerry Springer, one of the most influential and controversial figures in TV history, has died, TMZ has confirmed. Jerry hosted the smash hit syndicated talk show, The Jerry Springer Show, for 27 years. So that's people who grew up off of the show. And it was never a boring moment. The Wild Show, which was known for its outrageous guests who usually got into crazy fights as the audience cheered Jerry, 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 Jerry. A family spokesperson says Jerry was battling a brief illness. Our sources tell us it was pancreatic cancer that was diagnosed a few months ago. And this week he took a turn for the worst. A spokesperson said he died Thursday morning peacefully at his home in the Chicago area. Before TV, he was a politician who ran a failed campaign for the U.S. Congress in 1970. He got elected to Cincinnati City Council in 1971 and became the city's mayor in 1977. He served one term. But Jerry became a worldwide sensation with his show, which debuted in 1991. Most people won't remember this, but when he started, Jerry's show focused on political issues. Of course, it eventually became the exact opposite and a ratings smash. You got to go where the ratings are. And that's what he did. He realized what people wanted to see, and he went further in that direction. That's what happens. When you see people focusing on the dysfunctional, you got to give the people what they want. Jerry's show was so popular in the late 90s, it even topped Oprah Winfrey's in several cities. Springer finally went off the air in 2018. He made one more run in TV with his courtroom show, Judge Jerry, which ran for 3 seasons. Jerry's last TV appearance came last season on The Masked Singer, where he performed as the Beatle singing a Frank Sinatra classic. We're told his cancer battle got much worse about a month ago, and he finally had to stop working. He had been hosting a folk music show on a local radio station in Cincinnati. He is survived by his daughter, Katie Springer, and his older sister, Evelyn. You know, say whatever you want about Jerry. Jerry was a guy, again, to me, that was a TV legend and a cultural. He's a cultural figure. He is the 90s. If there's anybody that you could think about that was you look back and say, who represents the 90s? There's a few people that you can name, right? But the one name that a lot of people are going to bring up is Jerry Springer. That show, yes, it was all over the place, but it was pure entertainment from the guests, from the fighting, from, the pull aparts, the cutaways to the producer, the question and the questions that are asked at the end of the show, Jerry's final word. It was all entertainment. And to me, Jerry to me signified a guy that was able to produce something that at the time people did not like, they didn't agree with, they thought was bad, but ultimately it got over with people. And it ran for 27 years. How many shows run for 27 years? That lets you know the impact that he had, whether people agree with it or not, whether people think that it was a good thing or not. He was able to create something that caught on, that people liked, that was successful. He is the 90s. Some of y'all may have other people in mind that you think of, but to me, when you think of the 90s, which was a great era, 90s was a great era. I grew up in the 90s. 90s was a great era. When you think of the 90s, the one name that you're always going to think of is Jerry Springer. So let me know what y'all think in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Like this video and share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll see y'all next one. Rest easy to Jerry Springer.